Welcome to Nicole's Nightmare Narratives, where we uncover the dark and disturbing tales that hide in the shadows. Tonight, we hit the open road with 3 terrifying true trucker horror stories that will make you think twice about those long drives at night. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more chilling tales. Now, let's journey into the unknown together. Story 1, The Vanishing Hitchhiker. Our first story takes us to a desolate stretch of highway in the American Midwest, where a long-haul trucker named Jake encountered something that defied all logic and reason. It was a cold, foggy night, and Jake was hauling a load of goods across state lines. The road was empty, and the only sound was the hum of his engine. As he drove through the thick fog, he saw a figure standing by the side of the road, thumb outstretched. Against his better judgment, Jake decided to stop and offer the hitchhiker a ride. As the figure approached, Jake noticed it was a young woman, drenched and shivering. He opened the passenger door and invited her in. She climbed into the cab, thanking him profusely. Jake tried to make conversation, but the woman was mostly silent, staring out the window with a distant look in her eyes. She gave him an address in a nearby town, and he continued driving. After a while, Jake glanced over to check on his passenger, but to his shock, the seat was empty. The woman had vanished without a trace. He pulled over, heart pounding, and searched the cab, but there was no sign of her. Confused and shaken, he continued to the address she had given him. When he arrived, he knocked on the door and was greeted by an elderly woman. Jake explained what had happened, describing the young hitchhiker. The woman's face turned pale, and tears welled up in her eyes. She told Jake that the girl he described was her daughter, who had died in a car accident on that very stretch of road several years ago. Jake felt a chill run down his spine as the woman showed him a photo of her daughter. It was the same girl he had picked up. The elderly woman explained that many drivers had reported seeing her daughter's ghost, always seeking a ride home, but disappearing before she could get there. Jake left the house, his mind racing with thoughts of the supernatural. He couldn't shake the image of the young woman, her distant eyes staring out into the foggy night. From that day forward, every time he drove that stretch of highway, he kept an eye out for her, hoping to help her find peace. Over the years, Jake heard more stories from fellow truckers about the vanishing hitchhiker. Some claimed to have seen her standing by the road, while others swore they had given her a ride, only for her to disappear. The legend of the ghostly hitchhiker became a well-known tale among those who traveled the lonely highways at night. Jake's curiosity grew into an obsession. He began researching local archives and old newspapers, looking for any information about the girl's accident. He found a few articles that confirmed the story, detailing the tragic crash and the mysterious sightings that followed. Jake even contacted other truckers who had reported seeing the ghostly figure, hoping to piece together more details about her appearances. One night, determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Jake set up a camera in his cab. As he drove the familiar stretch of highway, he kept his eyes peeled for any sign of the hitchhiker. Hours passed, and just as he was about to give up, he saw her standing by the side of the road, looking more real than ever before. He stopped the truck and watched through the camera as she approached. This time, he asked her name and where she was going. The girl responded with a soft voice, "Sarah, I need to get home." Jake drove her to the same address as before, but this time, when he glanced over, she was still there, silent and staring out the window. When they arrived, Jake escorted her to the door, but as soon as they stepped onto the porch, she vanished again. The elderly woman opened the door, tears in her eyes, and thanked Jake for trying. She told him that each time someone brought Sarah home, it brought her a little closer to finding peace. Jake continued to encounter Sarah on his drives, each time bringing her a little closer to her final destination. He became known among truckers as the one who helped the vanishing hitchhiker, earning their respect and admiration. Jake's encounters with Sarah became less frequent over the years, and he hoped that meant she was finally finding the peace she sought. Story 2, The Rest Stop Phantom. Our second tale takes place at a remote rest stop in the Pacific Northwest. Truckers often used this rest stop to take a break from their long journeys, but one night, a driver named Sam experienced something that would haunt him forever. Sam had been driving for hours and decided to pull over at the rest stop to stretch his legs and grab a quick nap. The rest stop was eerily quiet, with only a couple of other trucks parked in the lot. As he walked towards the restroom, he noticed a strange figure standing near the vending machines. It was a man, dressed in outdated clothes, staring intently at Sam. Feeling uneasy, Sam tried to ignore him and continue to the restroom. When he came back out, the man was gone. Sam shrugged it off and returned to his truck to catch some sleep. As he dozed off, he was jolted awake by a loud banging on his truck's door. He looked out the window, but saw no one. The banging continued, growing louder and more insistent. Sam grabbed a flashlight and stepped out of the truck, but there was no one around. He decided to check the other trucks to see if anyone else had heard the noise. He found another trucker, Bill, who had also been awakened by the banging. The two men decided to investigate together, walking around the rest stop with their flashlights. As they approached the restroom, they saw the same man Sam had seen earlier, standing in the shadows. When they called out to him, he vanished into thin air. The two truckers were left standing in the dark, their hearts pounding. They returned to their trucks and locked the doors, too scared to sleep. The next morning, they reported the incident to the authorities, who revealed that there had been numerous reports of ghostly sightings at that rest stop. Years ago, a man had been murdered there, and his restless spirit was said to haunt the area. Sam and Bill decided to avoid that rest stop in the future, but the memory of that night stayed with them. They shared their story with other truckers who had their own tales of eerie encounters at rest stops across the country. The legend of the rest stop phantom became another chilling tale that truckers told each other on long, lonely nights. Sam's encounter with the phantom didn't end there. On subsequent trips, he heard stories from other truckers who had stopped at the same rest stop. Some claimed to have seen the ghostly figure wandering the parking lot, while others reported hearing strange noises and feeling an inexplicable sense of dread. One trucker, Jerry, recounted a particularly harrowing experience. He had pulled into the rest stop late one night and was about to settle in for some sleep when he heard footsteps approaching his truck. He looked out the window and saw the same man Sam had described, staring up at him with hollow eyes. Jerry tried to start his truck and drive away, but the engine wouldn't turn over. Panic set in as the phantom figure began banging on the door, just as Sam had experienced. Jerry grabbed his CB radio and called for help, hoping another trucker was nearby. To his relief, another trucker responded and arrived at the rest stop within minutes. The phantom vanished as soon as the second trucker arrived, leaving Jerry shaken but grateful. They both agreed to report the incident to the authorities and vowed never to stop at that rest stop again. The legend of the rest stop phantom spread quickly among the trucking community. Some truckers even formed a pact to avoid the haunted rest stop altogether, choosing to drive a little further to the next available stop. Despite their efforts, the phantom's presence persisted, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk in the dark corners of the road. Story 3, The Haunted CB Radio. Our final story takes us to the highways of the Deep South, where a trucker named Mike experienced a series of terrifying events involving his CB radio. It all started on a stormy night as Mike was driving through a remote stretch of road. The rain was coming down in sheets and visibility was poor. Mike's only comfort was the chatter on his CB radio, where other truckers shared weather updates and kept each other company. Suddenly, a strange voice broke through the static, calling out Mike's name. "Mike, Mike, can you hear me?" the voice said, sending chills down his spine. He picked up the receiver and responded, but there was no reply. The voice continued, growing more urgent. "Mike, you have to help me." Mike felt a sense of dread as the voice described a terrible accident that had happened on that very road years ago. A trucker had lost control in a storm and crashed, dying instantly. The voice claimed to be the spirit of that trucker, trapped in the CB radio, seeking help to move on. Despite his fear, Mike felt compelled to respond. He asked the spirit what he could do to help. The voice told him to find the spot where the accident happened and leave a marker to honor the dead trucker. Mike agreed, hoping it would bring peace to the restless spirit. The next day, Mike followed the directions given by the voice and found the site of the accident. It was a desolate spot, overgrown with weeds and forgotten by time. He placed a small cross and said a prayer for the lost trucker. As he was about to leave, he felt a cold breeze and heard the voice one last time, thanking him for his kindness. Mike returned to his truck, feeling a sense of closure. The strange voice never came through his CB radio again. Mike shared his story with other truckers, many of whom had their own eerie experiences with CB radios. Some claimed to have heard voices of long-dead truckers, while others reported strange noises and messages. The legend of the haunted CB radio became a part of trucker lore, a reminder that the road can be a place of mystery and fear. To this day, truckers across the country keep their CB radios on, not just for communication, but also in case they hear the haunting voice of a fellow driver, lost in the ether, seeking solace and connection. Mike's story didn't end there. Curious about the phenomenon, he began researching other reports of haunted CB radios. He found numerous accounts from truckers who had heard voices, some seeking help, others simply sharing their stories from beyond the grave. One trucker, named Lisa, recounted a chilling experience she had one foggy night. She was driving through the mountains when she heard a voice on her CB radio, warning her of a rock slide up ahead. Lisa slowed down just in time to avoid a massive boulder that had crashed onto the road. When she tried to thank the voice, it had already vanished. Another trucker, Tom, heard a voice on his CB radio that sounded like his late father, who had also been a trucker. The voice offered words of encouragement and guidance during a particularly difficult journey. Tom felt a sense of comfort and closure, believing that his father's spirit was watching over him. These stories spread like wildfire among the trucking community, adding to the legend of the haunted CB radio. Truckers began to view their radios as more than just a tool for communication. They saw them as a lifeline to the supernatural, a connection to the spirits of those who had traveled the same roads before them. Mike continued to use his CB radio, hoping to hear more from the other side. Each time he turned it on, he felt a mix of anticipation and fear, wondering if he would encounter another ghostly voice. His experiences left him with a profound respect for the mysteries of the road and the spirits that lingered there. Thank you for joining us on this spine-tingling journey through the open road. We hope these stories have left you with a sense of unease and wonder about the mysteries that lie along the highways. If you enjoyed these tales, please like, subscribe, and share Nicole's nightmare narratives with your friends. Until next time, sleep tight and beware the shadows that whisper in the night.